Hello, my name is Dante De Niro. This is my Lab 8 deliverable. Um, we can kind of just start by showing um, kind of what's going on. So I configured R2 to be, is obviously our DHCP server. So if I do a show, I configured the 7.0/24 network for R6 between R6 and R4, and then the 8.0/24 network between R6 and R8. So these are the MAC addresses of the interface that is getting DHCP on R6, and then this is the MAC address on R7 that is also getting DHCP. So I configured the DHCP server headed towards, on the interface heading towards those two devices, and then I also added a relay command so it can handle relay information. And then on R4, I configured these DHCP relay commands in order to allow relay for all the subnets that it gets. Always on, and then again that information option, so it can set that relay tag. And then I'm using the IP helper command on the interface towards R6 to inform R6 where the DHCP or where to send the DHCP information to. So it was kind of weird for Arista. Me and Sneha kind of were talking back and forth. We weren't really able to get the DHCP to work properly. So if you do like IP DHCP on the interface itself, it doesn't ever show up in the show IP in brief for some reason. However, if you go into the bash shell of Arista, it will show up. So we're not really sure why that's happening. So I ended up having to manually, I can get the bash. So if I go into bash, just do, so it's already running, so that's already doing its thing. So if you just do an IPA, you get this, and you can also see here that it does actually get and then send an IP address. So it has these bindings, but again, on show IP in brief, you don't see anything. So I had to manually configure the IP address for the rest of, for routing protocols to work and everything else. So that was a little strange. So obviously the same thing is happening on R7. Had to do the same kind of process, but again, you can see R7 is in fact getting an IP address and it's reaching there, it's just not showing up. So that was a little weird. And then the bigger thing is that I wasn't able to get tftp to work. I have it configured. I have a tftp server configured on my NMAS, and I can see packets arriving, but then no data is ever sent back. If you just do even a static tftp poll from R6 or R7 with connectivity, you can reach the NMAS. Everything is working on an IP level. It just will not send data back and forth. Again, got with Sneha to try and figure out how to get it to work, and we couldn't really figure anything out. Tried for countless hours. Again, not really sure what the issue there was. So I kind of just did a little bit of a workaround and kind of created my own TFTP server type of deal. So what this script is doing is I'm basically looking for these MAC addresses, which are the MAC addresses of R6 and R7. And sorry, just checking to make sure I'm recording. So it'll look for these two IP addresses using Arista's API, this will make an API call to R2 to show the DHCP server bindings. So once it does that, it'll parse that information down here. You can it'll take this input, look for that specific MAC address. If it doesn't find one, it'll return this. If not, it'll return the IP address it finds. And then once I have that IP address, I'll take that IP address, plug it into this new function, and then I'll log into that device with that IP that I just gathered, and then send a day one configuration via NetMiko. And then I have this little monitoring function, so it will check to make sure if it's sent that configuration to the device. It'll check that every 30 seconds. If, once this happens, once it finds that MAC address IP, it'll set this value to true. And then if it's true, it'll no longer it would no longer send that configuration. So it'll say configuration for Mac whatever was already sent, and then I'll wait another 30 seconds. So if I want to add another device, I go in here, add the MAC address, add the configuration file location, and then it'll work for the rest of the other devices. So this isn't exactly, I guess what we were trying to do. We were trying to do tftp, but again, we tried that for a while and it seemed to not work. So we were kind of out of options or kind of what to do. So this was kind of the best thing I thought of to do. Kind of create some type of sudo FTP server. So yeah. So then once I have that information, I kind of added it to my my GUI kind of thing. So if you click on health check here, you'll see an R6 and an R7. So you'll see these two. I need to add a section for RIP. But yeah, so R6 and R7 will be added. You can see the routing. It's mainly just health check stuff, and then CPU load. Same thing for save config. I can save their golden config. So that all works. And then I also added it, obviously, to my Netbox IPAM system, just so that I can use the API from this to pull the IP address information on R6 and R7. So that's basically what I did for R8 or Lab 8, and thank you for listening. Sorry, just realized I never actually ran the code, so this is kind of what it looks like. Kind of simple, so just we'll, again, use the Arista API to make an API call, looking for this specific MAC address. This is the return IP address that it found. And then I am connecting to that IP address and then sending the configuration file. And then same thing with R7, looking for the MAC address, finding the IP address, connecting to that IP address, and then sending a configuration file. So it's been 30 seconds, and you'll see that it has already sent that to those two devices, so it's not going to send that file again. So that's basically just the functionality of the script. Okay, thank you.